the document, continue going over mastery of the CAD. So for the workshop, December 1st through the 15th, great opportunity to learn just about anything on building related. The CAD is a big part of that. So the more you can study the CAD beforehand, the better. And one of the main parts that I want to get across is, because we have so many people, also the build method allows itself to be largely paralleled. So parallel build, which means that if we have access to all the documentation in front of us, like build cheat sheets and all that, then we can go on happily. And the thing is that one of the principles here is that documentation always lags behind the actual builds that we do, because it turns out that documentation takes more time to do than actual builds if you're going to do it correctly. So one thing we're going to experiment with this time around is more internet infrastructure in the workshop. So we're actually getting, so I just purchased a bunch of monitors and stuff, but we're going to have 12 workstations in the workshop, so that anytime anybody has a question regarding some details that are not in the documentation, then we will go over that. Well, you can check within the CAD model. So the way we will organize the build is basically have, there's going to be about 200 modules that can be built in parallel, independently of actually installing them. So that's walls, roof, other types of modules. So there's a lot that can be done prior to actual assembly, and we'll be working on all of those pretty much at the same time. And we'll see how we rotate the shifts with people doing different parts of the build as people want to. You can get your hands on as many of the different modules as possible, but with the amount of people we have, we should probably, the goal would be like in the first 5 days we're done with all the structural stuff. In fact, like building the entire structure within 5 days is actually a realistic goal for the workshop, and that requires documentation. Let's talk about the breakdown. So the key aspect being modular breakdown, the CAD file, and how that works. So let me share my screen. I'm going to go to the, what I'll do today is explain the kind of documentation we want to do through, the kind of process we want to go through for modular breakdown, so everyone can contribute actually the most and be most empowered to review and work with the CAD themselves, regardless of what's going on in a workshop. It's going to be busy, hectic, there's going to be a lot of questions, there's going to be more information than you can handle. So the more, I'm just saying that the more you can understand the information part of the process, the better it will go. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so if anyone can you acknowledge that you're able to see my screen?
Yep. Yes.
That's awesome. Okay, so here's the modular breakdown process. I'll go over this and how we start applying this to the actual build. Coordination guidelines. We have a house made of modules, and we start with labeling, major parts, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What are all the parts, so we can just conceptually get organized around the build. Things like, there's the living room, kitchen, and bathroom, 3 modules that we work on at the same time, 12 by 20 each, the 3 sections of the house that make the 720 square foot house. Each one of them you can start breaking down into more parts. This is still conceptual. And then we get into the actual cheat sheets and technical. Okay, so we get into point number 2, which is modules, which we will number. Like you see this 1. So we're going to end up with about 200 numbers. It's going to look like something like this, which we can document in multiple pages of documentation. And the invitation is for us to practice manipulating the CAD file to generate the cheat sheets. What do cheat sheets look like? So, but the most important part about this, 200 modules are defined as pre-built units that can be built in parallel. Therefore, in principle, this process is infinitely scalable in the presence of build cheat sheets and build documentation. So that's part of the way we build in order to allow a full build of a house like this by a trained crew in 5 days. What we're doing in the workshop is a smaller house, which is 720 square feet, 14 days to do all of that. But the paralleling is an important part. Okay, question came up regarding bugs. If you see any bugs, actually try to fix it. You know, like if you can open up FreeCAD, well, this does require a little bit of FreeCAD knowledge in terms of how do you move things or actually start editing. Well, I won't get into that right now, but if you do see any bugs and you actually do have FreeCAD knowledge, just modify it or whatever, and then upload the new version. Like we had an example of one top plate module was a 1/4 inches off in the CAD. Someone brought up, and if you see that, if you have the skill, do fix it or let us know. Now, if you do decide to help us fix it, start a work log. I mean, I encourage anybody anyway to start a work log. It's a page on the wiki called work log. And you should have a link to this document here, so you can actually click on this. I'll paste that link into the
Hey,
into the
Marcin,
chat
we
again.
can't see your screen right now.
I can see it.
Can't see my screen. So are people able to see my screen or not really?
I can see it. It might be you, Bo.
Okay, so maybe other. Okay, so if someone can see that, we're definitely transmitting. But you can get into this one. I do recommend for anybody in the whole event starting a work log, so you can take notes. Like I use the wiki myself. I have a work log on the wiki that I've kept for a decade or two, and I can basically look up and search anything I've done over the last 20 years or whatever. If you do see a bug, let us know. We'll update the main file. So the main file is what people download. I'm going to put a link to the main file again. On the wiki, it's called the if you just type in sh7, that leads you to the CDCO Home 7. The CAD is here. So this is the master file right here. I'm going to put a direct link to this. So download the latest file at the main file location. If we see any bugs and if we see any corrections, we will upload upload changes to the main file. Prior to the workshop, do bring a laptop with FreeCAD installed. If you do not have one, as I said, we have 12 workstations that we're setting up with 24-inch monitors so you can see the CAD clearly. Okay, so once we so this is what a breakdown would look like, and we can actually try this. So for example, the wall module breakdown is the first 48 wall modules for the exterior and exterior, and then there's many more other ones, but that's what it actually looks like in practice. And first of all, just a little more overview about the modular breakdown. I actually would like to call out for tomorrow's session. So we're going over the CAD and IT part of the workshop. But in tomorrow's session, I'd like everybody to actually participate in this process so you get familiar with how, well, first of all, have access to the overall build cheat sheet set. That cheat sheet set will be printed out. We're going to have two printers in a workshop, so you can print out like pages of the documentation. But if you contribute to this and know how to do this, you can actually contribute to helping us document. And I want to get people involved in this, because the more you play around with a FreeCAD file and start extracting information out of it, the more you will get out of the workshop. So the goal for tomorrow's session, a preview, is to generate cheat sheets. So what is a cheat sheet? This is like a generic template for it. It's got these elements. Critical, the ones with the check marks are pretty critical for anybody to make, for this to be useful to anybody. So for example, in a title, you would have, maybe wall module 1 cheat sheet, okay? And this is the template here we're using. This is just a rough thing. I just did a quick sketch here, but as long as this information is in there, I want to let all kinds of different people do different versions of this to see what sticks. But for example, here, what we want to do is put a visual copy and paste from FreeCAD. So go into the model, such as I'm showing here, such as if that's so.
I don't personally see anything.
Yeah, Marcin, you're not sharing your screen at this point.
Well, I think you're trying. It's just showing up as kind of like a placeholder, your Google picture.
Oh man. Okay, that's.
Just share another tab and then share this one back.
You think I'm going to go out and go into another tab? Okay, I'm going to try sharing again. So let me go to the entire screen. Am I being able to share right now? Can you guys see my screen now?
Well, give it a second. Let's see. It hasn't popped up yet, I don't think.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. I don't know what I need to do. I probably need a new computer. Or is this a limitation of Google Meet, or is this a limitation
not that I know
of my
of.
computer? Or even bandwidth?
So I'm going to try to share the slides. I think it works for me.
Oh, okay. So how about? Excellent. You're my presenter. So I'm going to
Sure,
explain.
I can present for you.
Okay, thank you. So that sounds like bandwidth issue, wouldn't you say, or no?
Hard to know.
I got to figure this out because we're going to only scale this process. So, okay, okay. In the cheat sheet, first of all, we're going to do 200 of these. It can be minimalist. It's assistance. It won't have all the info. It's for 200. That's a lot of work. And then you've got many more pages. These are just modules. In addition to the instructions on all the other systems, like, okay, here's like heat pump or whatever, plumbing, electrical. This about 200 is structural. So it's way more than 200. And we're trying to manage this complex amount of information. So for the cheat sheets, for the first about 5 days of the build, we're going to be working off this 1 through 200 set. So what I would like to do is in the upper corner here, so with a check mark where you see the module simply CAD with hyperlink to file, uploaded to the wiki. If you click on uploaded to the wiki, you will be taken to the CAD placeholder page, and there we will have module by module itemization. That page is obtained if you know how to navigate the wiki. You'd go to CD-COM 7 and then you go to 3D CAD, and there we have the master. You have a link to the master and the 200 modules. So we're going to literally take the main file and start breaking it down into all the sub files so that when you're building it, you're not going to be confused by the big model. The big model is big. I mean, you can spend a lot. If you study the big model and organize it exquisitely and spend many hours studying it, you can do effectively what a simple click on a hyperlinked file does. Does that make sense? You'd have to study the file. Here we try to make it easy by saying, okay, here's the module we're building. You got 50 people, let's say we break down into 25 teams of 2. We're working on 25 modules at the same time. That's huge. We have a 160 by 50 space to do this in. It's going to be a lot of stuff happening there. So say you're building this module, you click on it, you get the CAD, you click on the CAD and open it up in FreeCAD. And that way you can view just that specific module, okay? Now, when we do generate this cheat sheet, you need some more information. There's build instructions. If you can manage, we'll talk about build instructions in general for the wall modules. We won't get into that too much now. You want to, the absolute critical thing, if you're actually building it, you know you're going to have to get the cut list, or even a visual cut list. A visual cut list could be a diagrammed version of the icon here, where, for example, you call out this member there as 4 feet. You know, you're actually linking the materials to a description for a visual way to communicate it. Okay, so you can say like 4 feet right there. But you also need to know what kind of material. A lot of times the FreeCAD file will tell you like 2x6 lumber, and we'll have another session. We'll cover the main material types found in this build. The things you have to know is 2x6 lumber, 2x4 lumber, oriented strand board, or OSB, which is the sheeting. Those are like the 3 main structural pieces of materials. There's also 3/4 inch plywood, 3/4 OSB, various trim. But for the structural stuff, you've got a lot of 2x6, a lot of 2x4, some 2x10, and that's it for the lumber part count. We're actually being very deliberate on minimizing that. For the cut list or visual cut list, just simply list, okay, now you know I'm going to use 1 4-footer for the top, 1 4-footer 2x6 from the bottom. So that means the cut list is cut 2 of those. And then you have the 3, they're called pre-cut studs, and I mentioned a little bit about it, but from the store, you get them pre-cut to that exact size, which makes a 9-foot module. A 9-foot module that's 3/8 inches off, which doesn't matter for us. But that's your cut list. Now, for example, for the OSB, if you're using a full sheet of OSB on that, it says no cutting there. It's just you might call out the material, like in your build instructions. So the CAD is absolutely critical, because there you can get the truth. You can actually read the materials, like the parts tree in a FreeCAD will have description of what the material is. So if you have that specific file, you have all the parts in it. And I also mentioned that there are files which are in the main model. You have modules are combined as one unit. It's like a compound, versus the file containing individual parts. There's 2 types of files, but make sure you have the part file, the one that has all the individual parts, so you can click on them and actually access their identity. So that's that. So there's the module, there's module number. So that's a critical aspect of the slide. This is a large accounting exercise. In a workshop with 50 people or so, we're going to have to account for status of completion and quality control on every single part, on every module. And so what we'll do is, in this organization method, if you see in the upper left corner, you see the number 1. Once we print that out, we're going to give it to somebody. We'll give it to like a team of 2. So I want you, for tomorrow's session, generate your little icon. Here I made my icon, MJ for Marcin. So I'm going to put maybe that icon, I'm going to like drag it into that one page, and then we print it out so I know I'm doing it. Or you can just initial it or whatever after you print it out. But maybe like digitally, I would prefer that we do it both digitally and in printout, so that now we can go back to this document and virtually we can say, oh, okay, Marcin is working on this module. So we print it out, you work from it. When you're done, you're going to get to QC. I'm QC. I'm going to then review your module, and certain conditions must be met for acceptance. We can write those down. Like, for example, when you cut the tops and bottoms, they cannot be sticking out more than like 1/4 inch off into the next module. If they do, you got to cut that down and make it so that the modules fit. So quality control points, you see those exclamation points at the bottom right there. You can write a few notes to tell you what's critical. Like, for example, if we're building these modules, we're in the art of marking measuring, marking, and cutting, in the wall modules, we use the OSB, which is 4x9, as the platform against which we build. So as long as you line up the pieces of wood on the platform, that 4x9 sheet, you're good. You screw it together and make sure that the wood is not sticking out over the plywood like more than an 1/8 inch anywhere. That'll perhaps be a quality control point. And we'll go over, each day we'll go over like main quality control points, or we can add the quality control points to this document as we go forward. So that's the quality control points. It's a good to have. It means that you can control yourself what is acceptable and what's not. Like when you know the quality control point, you don't have to ask me, is that good? I'm going to ask you, is that thing sticking out more than like an 1/4 inch over the length or something? If no, then okay, you're all right. Okay. Next aspect here is it's useful to include the tools that you use in that process, but the main tools you use at all times, while we will have one cutting station that people can use, there's going to be a person that will man a cutting station. What we recommend for max ability to distribute and not bottleneck the process is everybody has a cordless drill, everybody has a cordless circular saw. We're going to have those cordless circular saws and cordless drills for everybody. Right now we have about 20 drills or so, about 12 saws or so. But if you have a cordless saw, cordless drill, bring it. And we're actually going to have to account for that because we're going to have to build up our inventory so that we make sure everybody has one for the workshop. If you're watching this, you can, I did ask that in the logistics form, whether you have tools or you can bring them. But a cordless screwdriver or impact driver, I actually prefer impact driver. So a cordless driver and a cordless circular saw, like we have DeWalt brands of that. That's like pretty much with that, a measuring tape, a chalk line, pretty much you can build the whole house here. So main tools. But for tools, there's, I won't get into that too much right now, but you can click on the use fab tool icons. When you click on that link, that's going to give you another document with a visual representation of like all the kinds of tools that we use. And we're going to spend a session basically where we're going to have a tool room where you'll see all these tools. We'll go through that in like an hour, a couple hours, a survey of all the tools you'll ever want to use in this process. So we'll keep going over that. Okay, so this is the cheat sheet concept. Absolutely critical. Identify the module number, upper left corner, such as number 1. Keith, if you go down to slide 3, we have a master index. So this is just a conceptual diagram of a master index, but basically one or more, and that's going to be more because we've got 200 parts. You can't fit 200 parts in a single page. So multiple pages, and as many people as they like could make different screenshots and label the parts for different points of view. But the point is that the numbers, I mean, that you can use the same number as long as it's referring to the same part. So you can do, if you show one module from one angle, make sure it's all consistent, so that the 200 is our magic number. It is a unique identifier for every single module that we build. That's the point. Then we refer, so back to page 2, each cheat sheet is identified with that number. Each number is identified with the person who's doing it. When a quality control is passed, all these sheets get 3 holes punched in them and go into the master folder, the finish folder, which means we've done all those parts. Because I will tell you right now, a big challenge in a group setting like this is keeping account of everything that's been built. So that's the basic process. I would like to ask for some questions here before we go through some more. So does this make sense as a way to organize and track state of completion in a place where everyone's working on things in parallel, or do other people have comments?
I think this makes sense. I have a question about the modules. So you said there's 200 of them.
Yeah.
In the CAD file, have they already been split out into 200 modules and we just need to translate each existing module into this file? Or are we going to have to somehow define those 200 modules?
The short answer is they're all in a CAD. You just take a specific part out of the CAD and you make it into an individual file for ease of access. Now, because we have so many people, we actually decided to do a couple of things. Like, for example, in the floor modules, last workshop we built them as 3 units. For example, this time we're breaking them down into half. So instead of 3 modules, now we have 6. Because they're completely parallelable, and it allows twice as many people to work on it at the same time effectively. So that's the idea. But all of that, like for example, the 6 floor modules, that will be in the CAD. So all we're doing is translating from the CAD file, just extracting parts out of it and doing that. For the walls, it's pretty straightforward, because when you click on the model, in the model, it's like all the wall units are there. And maybe like tomorrow, as we actually do it, once we get beyond the walls and into like roof, tapers, and all the other modules, verandas and windows and heat pumps and cabinets and all other things, we can go through that in more explanation, which we will also do during the workshop. We'll explain more of that. But for the workshop itself, we want to just pretty much, it's about modular breakdown at this phase.
Marcin,
break the file into multiple, into a large number of things. Go ahead.
I think maybe the question is, these are there's a cascading effect with these different sections, right? So how far down like what level? So first level, obviously that's not it. Second level, maybe. Third level, maybe that's it. So what is our module? Is it like level 1, 2, 3?
Go to page 1, and the only explanation is that pre-built units that can be built in parallel. So for example, if it's got, how do you know, so you're asking effectively, how do you know you have to break this down more? For the walls, for example, it will be absolutely transparent, right? Because you click on it, it's there. For the trusses, if you look at the trusses, well, there's 21 of them or so. You can click on, I don't know if each one appears as an individual one or not, but that's the kind of thing when we work on it tomorrow. As we do it, if I'm there, I can direct that process from the higher level a little bit. I can start basically a single page, which basically lists, like on the CAD page on the wiki. You saw me do like, okay, there's 20 front veranda modules, right? So it's as quick as that. It takes 20 of those. We identify which ones they are, and we can talk about it in the model, and talking about it and actually looking at it, you can get some idea that kind of makes sense. And the requirements are human buildable scale. So maybe 1 through 4 people can either build, either one person up to 4 people can either build and carry it themselves, or maybe up to 4 people are able to carry it together. So that kind of scale is what we're talking about, and they'll become more transparent as we look into this. But that's the general idea. Now, so yeah, I mean, the thing is about this, it's, as I say, it's just a lot of documentation. But if tomorrow we can go through, so say within this presentation, there's a Google slide, number, picture extracted from CAD file split. So obviously, as we work on it online, you can ask questions. We can collaborate, try to collaborate on that. And say you're picking out modules. First of all, like with the 48 wall modules, that's a bunch of work right there. depending on how many people we have join us tomorrow. We start with that. We can, at the same time, talk about, okay, well, what's the further breakdown as we go into the details of the CAD file as we're generating each of the slides. It's a kind of it's a little complex until you start getting used to this kind of process, but I'm hoping that this makes sense to at least some people, so we can move forward on this and generate at least the breakdown. Like, say we had one page with if this process gets us one page with the with a CAD file split out and a little picture of it, I mean, that's a good start, and we can get as much of this as possible prior to the workshop. I mean, the main thing is for you guys to get some experience manipulating the CAD file and thinking about how it's built, so that if you're deciding to build a house like this, you're more familiar with how it's broken down and how you can use more of a construction set approach than just building as like a monolithic thing versus module-based design. So it's an exercise in modularity. If you think that will be useful for you, absolutely join us tomorrow. If not, I mean, it might be technically challenging for some, but I think it's very useful to learn the process of group work using the Google Slides, all people doing the CAD file. The process on the wiki, a lot of people can be uploading different files pretty much at the same time. So the wiki is quite scalable. There could be, on the Google Docs, there's absolutely never an edit conflict because people are doing it, they're completely changing things in parallel. But maybe like two people can't grab the same thing to edit the same thing in a Google slide. You can't actually edit the same text box at the same time. So because you see the visual feedback of immediately what's going on, the edit conflicts are completely minimal within slides, and that's why it's useful for large-scale collaboration. But on a wiki, it's a little harder because, say, two people are editing the same place on a wiki, you could get an edit conflict if they're doing it at the same time. So the practice there would be, edit it, click save as soon as you got the edit, and in principle it could be workable. If it's not, in order to scale that process, what you would have to do is make individual pages. So it might be a decent idea, like once we have the CAD file page, there could be, I think once you start breaking the page down into sections, I'm actually not sure about this, but if different people are editing different sections, I think you don't get an edit conflict either. Does anyone know the answer to that one?
Yeah, it's pretty. You're not going to find too many conflicts. I've edited these pages in parallel before.
Yep. So it's a pretty scalable process for how many people can be doing. But the point is that you can, like, people in parallel can basically be manipulating the CAD file, extracting pieces out of it, and putting it into useful documentation form. In the workshop itself, you'll have the computer or laptop in front of you so that you can look up any questions. So between the printed printouts and what's on the computer screen, the idea is to make it as seamless as possible for the build. Let's see. So let's see, any questions on this? I could also cover maybe a little bit more about, so for the cut list part, do people have questions on that? Like, say you get this whole assembly out of free, can we say, okay, yeah, that's the module. How would you go about assessing a cut list? Okay, maybe audience, who can volunteer? What would be your process if you wanted to get a cut list? Because you can completely get a cut list out of a CAD drawing. You see that there are various parts, and if you see those various parts, you can simply list them. It's just a listing process. Now, sometimes there might be questions on, well, what stock did that piece of material come out of? Because you can buy lumber in many different sizes, like 8 foot, 16 foot, 24 foot, things like that. So that's the only question. But at the first approximation, you will say, cut this. Then the person, and if somebody knows more, you can say, well, cut this out of a 16 footer, not a 12 footer, you know, like, but that's getting into details. That will be, a lot of times they'll be self-evident because our piles of materials will be physically present, and you'll see, well, there is no 12 footers here, we just have 16s. Well, obviously you cut out of 16s, or if you just have 8s, then you just cut it out of 8s. So things like that. It becomes transparent through the build and the instructionals. So can I have somebody tell me, just describe in words the process that you would start?
Well, quick question for you about FreeCAD.
Yep.
Marcin, does it, so Autodesk allows you to generate a parts cut list,
Yep.
like automatically, it just generates the PDF for you. Does FreeCAD have that?
It does. It takes a little more effort, and you have to program it to do it. There's a couple of people actually in this workshop that are generating like parts extraction things from it. Now, if you want to help on that, if you do have that tool accessible, you know, you can export in step format, and therefore you can do that if you like as well. Any kind of automation would be good. I know Richard has played with, I think Andrew have played with just extracting from the actual part tree. You can extract the parts, including their dimensions. You have to do that through Python, so it's extensible. We don't have the full documentation for that yet, but maybe I don't know. What do you guys think? Andrew, Andrew, you were working on that a little bit, right?
I didn't do anything with that myself, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was someone else. I'm getting confused, but I know Richard was looking into
that was me. You know what I only did was just use AI to ask me to make the macro, and I just copied and pasted it into the window for it. So I just copied and pasted it into FreeCAD, and it processed it. I played with it. I kept doing it over and over and over again until I fine tuning it. But yeah, you could just use AI to make a code for you.
Yeah. Now, Keith, like you say, for example, from AutoCAD, you can generate that. But then, okay, how do we share that? Because the next question is, how do you communicate it in an easy way? So I would like that to go onto the cheat sheet. So how do you do it? Can you just copy and paste it and then just put it in here?
I mean,
yeah, I can do that.
Embed the document, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. You can just the cool thing about the cheat sheets is if you're using them on a computer, you can access all the hyperlinks. If you have the printout, you have the ready information. But yeah, we can link as much information to these cheat sheets as possible while making them as simple and usable as possible in the quantity that we need. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a visual representation of when a module is complete? So you have 200 modules. Do we have some way of knowing 1 through 59 are done and the rest are still in progress?
So, yeah, and that we want to do probably through a thing like if you go to page 3, we can do spreadsheets. I mean, spreadsheets are kind of hard to parse, but here, what we can simply do is have one thing where, okay, the things are all red, you know, say all the dots are red for 1 through 200. When it's done, it just turns green. We can change it green manually. That's one way to do it. The folder of finished files will be kind of the ultimate arbiter. Like if it's in a final folder, that means it's done. And like if you're assessing, well, what's the next step here? What are we doing? What's still to be done? We can, if we're working with the Google Slides in the workshop, if we're actually looking at them, we can actually show the ready status of completion. Like maybe what we could do is do one main display screen. Yeah, I think what we should probably do is we have a big screen LCD display. We can probably do like the picture that stays on all the time as the status of completion. I think that would be the good thing. So say for the day we were doing like all these modules, like 50, we can have one big display showing, okay, these are done. So if you're looking for one, you can go, oh, here's the next one I want to work on. Or maybe like we allocate a few to each person, but it's always going to be challenging to keep track that everything is done or no duplicates are done. It's just a question of how much time, how efficient we are, and how many mistakes we do. Do we have a phase
kind of completion type
Yeah.
thing. So you can't do module 50 before you do module 30.
Yeah, exactly.
Just physically, right?
So that gets into build order. I want to cover it in another session, maybe like next week. Let's talk about the build order explicitly, because the thing for the 200 is that they can be done contemporaneously, like absolutely no dependence. Then there's other ones which now you actually do have dependencies, and you just simply can't do it until, say it's like finished trim. Well, obviously you can't do the finishing detail before the structure is up, so that emerges afterwards. But we can go over that, especially things like, well, when exactly can you start doing insulation or the electrical in there? We can do things like, even when we build the modules, we can consider putting the insulation in there if people want to. So things like that we can do, as long as we're pretty clear about the whole build order. We can kind of have a little leeway in terms of how we break down the steps as we do it. But let's save that for another session. So who wants to join tomorrow to do the practice breakdown? Keith, cool, yeah. Jackson, Felix, yeah.
Join.
So yeah, feel free to join. So I'm going to post this for tomorrow's session. Are there any? Please go ahead if any more questions are out there. Maria?
Yes.
Oh, do you have a question? I see.
No.
Oh, I thought
Sorry.
your hand was up. Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
I had a question about the Google Slides.
Yes.
Is there like a master folder where we can find all this information?
Well, there is. This is the main work doc. So if you go to, there's two places you can find it. If you go to Builder Crash Course on the wiki, you get access to the December Builder Crash Course. But we're documenting all of this at the Seed Eco Home 7 page on the wiki. Keith, you want to show what page that is? Can you find it? Yeah, either the Builder Crash Course December 27. Here's the working docs. You see the working docs here. It's the number 1. So you click on that. And we can add more working docs there as we go along. We can, by the time we're done, this document is going to be unmanageable. Like, it's going to be too long. So we're going to break it down into a few separate docs. The cool thing about the Google Slides is that, you can have one master index that now links out to all the individual docs. So always what we like to do is keep one visual index, and then the other stuff can live on a wiki, it could live on GitHub or whatever, like wherever you send it to, but have a visual index. So does that answer your question? And then the Seed Eco Home 7 page, Keith, you want to show people where Seed Eco Home 7 page lives? You can type in SH7 in its search box or in a title bar. Just SH7.
Yes, sir.
Yep. It's like a three letter SH7.
Got it. Sorry, I'm on 2 different keyboards here.
Yeah, sure. You can. That's the one. SH7. It will redirect you to the CD Home 7. That's the main development spreadsheet. So you got the CAD, the blue link number 6. That's all we got. You might see all this stuff is quite red and empty. Now, that doesn't mean it's empty. It could mean that in versions 1 through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's some of that info in there already. But we basically start from fresh on each one. It's a pain to track all this info. So what we're doing is, anytime we build something new, just set up a main development template like this, so you never ever get into the conflict of mixing up versions. So we have one for SH6, SH5, etc. But this way, you're just trying to keep clear this all belongs with the current version. And there might be other stuff that belongs to this version, but these are the ones that we're working on. The blue finished and the link to work product column, those are the ones that are active. So the 3D CAD, you can access the CAD file. The build instructions is our working doc. I put it there. We can start filling all these. This is openly editable. You can start, like we were doing a little bit of number 4 module breakdown a little bit just now, things like that. And industry standards, we can probably take translate from all the former versions because we know, okay, these are the typical things that people build. Our requirements and value proposition to solve housing in a big picture and affordable ecological homes that can be built at low cost with minimal skill and maximum modularity and speed. We're still got the same thing. So in his development spreadsheets, we've got this description of what each work product is, and then we got this simple work product. So we do this for any single thing we tackle. Okay, Bo, do you have a question?
Yeah, my question is, will we be building the foundation for the house?
Yeah, so for the foundation, what we'll be working on is the floor is like the subfloor. It's not really the foundation, but the answers are yes and no. The no in a sense that not specifically for this house because it will get put on a foundation, but yes in a sense that we have space where we can practice doing a concrete pad if people would like to do that. So because the workshop, the heated hangar, it will have a gravel floor. So what our plan is to actually fill that with concrete during workshops so that one, we have a better surface and it's also practice for the people and just get some experience on working with concrete and a concrete mixer and things like that. We actually have a skid steer mounted concrete mixer so you can mix like a cubic yard of cement at a time. To do that, we can do that, run a few batches and get some smooth surface. And that's very useful for a workshop. You want a nice rolling surface, and so if you drop a screw, you can find it. Yeah. Any other questions? Because I think we're kind of just going through this info IT part. Anything else? Otherwise, let's do some practice of this tomorrow, where we actually fill in some content and you'll see how this document grows. Now, actually, it's interesting. Just I must comment, Keith, if you scroll down in a document, for example. Jackson was working. Scroll down more, but there's stuff being done in a doc, like wall module build instructions. Like here, for example, some of these we can use as preliminary, like information within cheat sheets. Like if some of these are useful, like for example for a specific module, put a number on it. Just add the other value to it, like link to the CAD file so it's easy to access. Separate out the CAD file from the main model so it's easy to access, and just make people who are following this paper trail make the process more information rich and easier to navigate for people. So that's kind of okay. Like for example, like the numbers superposed over the actual CAD snapshots. That's all useful stuff that can help explain the build process. And the idea is like different people have different tastes for what works for them in terms of documentation. That's why I'm encouraging people like do screenshots and do things that help you organize this information in your head. Because if you do this yourself, you'll just have a much better grasp at organizing all the information. Because I can present all these documents, but can you parse it effectively? I don't know. Maybe just create ones for yourself that help you get the kinds of details that are most important to you. Because for me, the instructional I make might be most useful and easy to read, but for someone else, it might be really complex or useless because they're just not familiar with the assumptions in there, right? So that's why it's another reason for getting involved in the documentation. So if you can, do as much as you can. All right.
Thank you, man.
Okay. So tomorrow, 7, let's do a little bit of this practice, unless there's any questions.
Last question. Are all the modules in this free CAD that we've been looking at, or are there other modules that this little house doesn't feature?
There's details that we didn't put from other modules in other files. Like, for example, CDK Home 4, which is the production build that we just sold, that's got the most comprehensive information out of everything. So there might be additional CAD files if you go to CDK Home 4 on the wiki, and you can access this by just typing sh4. You'll find tons of information that will also be useful there, and we can basically copy some of those FreeCAD files into the current work. Now, because the model of SH7, it's a different geometry. It's the 1-floor model before we were doing the 2-floor. like you can't import without repositioning. Like you can put say some CAD object in there, but you might have to reposition it so it's in the right place. That's just the only thing, you know. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Nope. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you. We'll see you soon. We'll let the party begin December 1. Okay.